Hey there everyone, Videogame Cabinet here, and tonight we're doing a review on Castlevania for the Nintendo Entertainment System. I just beat Castlevania this afternoon using the whip and cross, or boomerang as it's called in the manual, to defeat both the Grim Reaper and Dracula. I actually beat this game for the first time back in late 2020, but I used a trick with the holy water to freeze the Grim Reaper as well as slow down Dracula's second form. I was never satisfied with beating those two bosses in such a cheap manner, so I finally went back today and used my skills to beat the game legitimately, no cheating and no tricks. I am proud to say that I have now properly conquered this notoriously difficult game. Simon Belmont's adventure through Dracula's castle is one of the renowned classics for the NES. I have great memories of playing this game as a child, but I never had the skills to finish it until adulthood. Even when the game punishes you for the slightest error, you still have a great time sharpening your skills. It's all about learning the proper timing of when to jump and when to throw your whip. This game employs the infamous knockback when an enemy hits you, and this will lead to many deaths until you get better. Being aggressive and learning enemy patterns is key. There's also a small but great selection of sub-weapons to attain during each run. The cross/boomerang was my favorite, but the watch, dagger, axe, and holy water, or firebomb as they call it in the manual, were also very useful. But the best and most important weapon was the whip, which you quickly upgrade to the Morning Star at the beginning of each run. Discovering the secret items behind breakable walls also added an extra layer of depth to the gameplay. Part of what made Castlevania so unique at the time of release was its gothic setting and tone. The many hideous beasts and monsters were like nothing seen in a video game before, especially one of this quality. And each enemy was very dangerous and forced you to learn their attack styles and patterns. Traveling through Dracula's giant castle was amazing, as each backdrop was so artfully depicted. Each stage was distinct and looked completely different from the last. Many of the series' later installments even have callbacks to the set pieces seen in this first entry. The boss fights at the end of each level were awesome, and the Grim Reaper is one of the hardest bosses I've ever faced in an NES game. I also loved fighting Medusa, the two mummies, and Frankenstein. These were some of the most memorable boss battles of the NES era. To top it all off was the incredible soundtrack. Every single track fit the dark atmosphere perfectly. Wicked Child and Hearts of Fire, in particular, were my absolute favorites. Castlevania is an iconic classic that started a beloved series, and I'm going to rate it a 9.5 out of 10. It is quite a marvel to consider this was released back in 1986 in Japan and 1987 in the United States, still quite early in the NES/Famicom life cycle. It's a blast to replay over and over all these decades later. So that's my review. As far as extra stuff I want to say, this game has always been one of my absolute favorite NES games growing up. I could never beat it as a kid. I loved watching friends of mine beat it, and I tried to get through it myself, but I always died somewhere around the third level after Medusa. You know, it gets really tough. But in 2020, which was about late 2020, I believe, like 3.5 years ago. Right now we're in early 2024. I guess I was 37 at the time, and I finally beat it legit. I looked up some strategies on YouTube, but I used this trick with the holy water where as soon as the Grim Reaper death comes down, you just start throwing it and he doesn't move. He doesn't throw his sickles. It was already a few years ago, so I vaguely remember, but like it was just a super cheeseball way to beat the guy. And I wasn't satisfied with that. And then later on, when you fight Dracula, during his second form, I remember using the holy water again in a sort of cheap way. I think it slows him down from jumping too much. But like it's the using the holy water on the Grim Reaper is the really cheeseball thing to do. And I was never satisfied with it. And I finally picked up the game again today at age 41 now. And I persevered. Thankfully, the game has infinite continues. I finally beat Death, the Grim Reaper, using the boomerang cross weapon and the whip, of course, and just throwing a couple of boomerangs out and then hitting him with the whip whenever I could and just dodging those sickles and understanding the timing. And it was just amazing when I finally did it. I was so happy. And that hallway that you have to transverse before you get to him, oh my God, it reminded me of the hallway at the end of Ninja Turtles. It was just really, really hard. But the important thing to do, like I said earlier in the review, is just to be aggressive, especially during certain parts of the game, like that hallway. But I will say the bosses in this game, there's ways to cheeseball just about all of them, but the first a couple of them were pretty easy. Like the first boss is the bat. You just throw the axe up to him. He's not so bad, and that's the legit way to beat him. Or you can use the stopwatch and hit him. It's fine with the sub weapons, but and then Medusa's big head sending out her snakes. You just be very aggressive with the whip, and it's fine. And the two mummies, there's definitely a way to cheeseball them. I've beaten them like legit, climbing all the way down and hitting them with the whip. Or you can climb down and go back up the steps and wait for them to start moving and cheeseball, them that way just by staying on the steps above where they can hit you. But and then after that, Frankenstein, he's not too bad. He used to look really hard to me as a kid, but then I discovered as an adult, the important thing, again, is to be aggressive, especially with Frankenstein. You just get up on that platform right next to him and just start wailing away with the whip and ignore that guy jumping around and just hit Frankenstein for dear life. Or there's other strategies. I believe other times that I've beaten him before, you do have to watch that imp, Igor, I think his name is, and just watch for wherever he's sending down his projectiles. And, it's tough. You have to multitask a little bit during that boss because there's two guys moving around. And then, of course, Death, the Grim Reaper. That was just an amazing boss battle, and I'm so glad I finally beat that in a legitimate way. And then Dracula's at the end, and he's very tough. He's definitely the second toughest boss in the game, but if you practice enough and just persevere. Luckily, when you get to Dracula, if you die and lose all your lives and you press continue, you don't have to start back from the beginning of the stage. You can start right before Dracula. So that helps a lot. But yeah, I think I'm set. For a long time, I was thinking, this game was maybe like a strong 9, but I think now, today I'm giving it a 9.5 after finally, going through the Grim Reaper and the Dracula boss legit and playing it now and replaying it so many times over the years. I'm going 9.5 because of when this game came out. When you think about it, late 86 in Japan, early 87 in United States, like there was nothing like this. And there were so many games that copied it afterwards. And it really, really was an amazing action platformer, at the time. I think of others made, like the original Super Mario Brothers came out, I think in 85 or something. And I think about it like that. I like this game about as much as that. And that one I give a 9.5. So, sometimes it's hard to grade these games on a certain scale, but you do have to look at like when they came out and stuff like that. No matter what, even if it's a little bit dated, it still holds up today. It's still just a tight playthrough. It's a bit short. It is a short game, especially by today's standards, but the replayability and the amount of times you die and how much you have to replay it to get good at it, I think that's what really it just elevates it. And that and the music, again, this is one of the most banger soundtracks in the entire NES library, and that is saying something. This is up there, with your Mega Man 2s, your Journey to Silius's, your Final Fantasies. Like this was just amazing, as was Castlevania 2 and 3, let me tell you, and the other games in the series. This game right here, this original, spawned such an amazing, iconic series over the coming decades. It's just incredible. So yeah, and I've played many of the other later entries, and it all started here. This beautiful gem here. So, anyways, that's all I got to say. Yeah, 9.5 for Castlevania for the NES, and that's it. Have a good night.